within like 2 or 3 streets of each other. And Ozzy went to school with Tony Iommi. When I walked to school, I used to walk past Ozzy's school, but I didn't meet him until I was about 18. I used to go to these all-nighter places up in Birmingham, and Ozzy used to go to these soul all-nighters. We used to see each other walking home like at 5 o'clock every Sunday morning, because none of us had cars or anything like that.
Geezer Butler couldn't hold back his emotions as he paid tribute to his lifelong friend and bandmate, Ozzy Osbourne, who passed away on July 22nd at the age of 76. The loss hit hard, not just because Ozzy was a music legend, but because for Geezer, he was a brother, a friend, and someone who stood by him in moments when few others did. In a quiet moment of reflection, Geezer sat down with the New York Post to speak openly about their last days together. His words were full of love, sorrow, and memories that spanned over 5 decades. Geezer last saw Ozzy during their final rehearsal and farewell concert on July 5th. It was supposed to be one last celebration of their legacy, but what it became was something more personal, a bittersweet goodbye. Geezer admitted that he now regrets not spending more time with Ozzy that day. He described how Ozzy joined him, Tony Iommi, and Bill Ward for rehearsals, but the moment Ozzy walked into the room, Geezer knew something was different. Ozzy looked fragile, leaning on a cane, helped by 2 assistants and a nurse. It was the first time Geezer truly saw the toll illness had taken on his friend. Even with his failing health, Ozzy showed up ready to rehearse. He didn't speak much, outside of the usual greetings. When he sang, he did so while sitting in a chair, saving what little energy he had. They ran through several songs, but it was clear that each one left Ozzy more tired. Geezer noticed how different he was from the lively and loud man he'd known for so many years. Their rehearsals, once filled with jokes and laughter, were now quiet, more somber. They spoke a little, but it was clear Ozzy didn't have the strength to talk much. The concert itself, held at Villa Park, was a special one. Fans showed up to celebrate Black Sabbath, but for the band, it was about something more personal. It was about closing a chapter. Geezer remembered how, after the final song, things didn't go the way they usually did. Normally, after a show, the 4 of them would hug each other and take a bow in front of the crowd. This time, Ozzy was too weak to stand. He sat on his throne at center stage. Tony shook his hand. Geezer presented him with a cake, but something about the moment felt unfinished. They hadn't planned for this ending, and Geezer admitted it all felt strange and quiet in a way they didn't expect. Backstage, the atmosphere was full of people. Friends, family, and well-wishers surrounded them. Even Ozzy's daughter Kelly got engaged during the celebration. But Geezer wished he'd had a little more time alone with Ozzy, time to sit and really talk, to say goodbye properly. That moment never came, and now he says all he can do is hold on to the memories. Wishes are redundant now, he said, recalling one of Ozzy's old sayings. Wish in one hand and in the other, and see which comes first. What hurts Geezer the most is that none of them knew that Ozzy would be gone just over 2 weeks after that final concert. That thought plays over in his mind again and again. They had shared 57 years of friendship. They built something that changed music forever. And now, it's just memories. But Geezer says he's grateful they got to share the stage one more time. Grateful they got to give the fans a final goodbye. And grateful that Ozzy went out doing what he loved, being in front of the people who adored him. One of the most touching parts of Geezer's tribute came when he talked about Ozzy outside of the spotlight. The world knew him as the Prince of Darkness, a wild rock star with a crazy persona. But to those who really knew him, Ozzy was something else. Geezer shared a story about when his son was born with a heart defect. At the time, he and Ozzy weren't even on speaking terms. But that didn't stop Ozzy. He called Geezer every single day to check on him and his son. He was a friend in need, Geezer said. Ozzy was always there for you. That was the kind of man he was. Geezer wanted the world to know that. Ozzy's public image didn't tell the full story. Yes, he was dark and loud and wild, but he was also kind, thoughtful, and deeply loyal. He had a sense of humor that could make anyone laugh. He was the Prince of Laughter, Geezer said. A born entertainer who lived to make others smile, even if it meant making a fool of himself. He would do anything for a good laugh. And that's the Ozzy Geezer will always remember. As he looked back over their journey together, Geezer summed it all up by saying, "It's been one hell of a ride." From their early days starting Black Sabbath to sold-out tours around the world, they had seen it all: fame, fights, reconciliations, and finally peace. It wasn't always easy, but it was real. Their bond went deeper than music. They were more than bandmates. They were brothers. Now, with Ozzy gone, there's an empty space that can never be filled. For Geezer, it's not just about losing a colleague. It's about losing a piece of his own story. Someone who understood him in ways no one else ever could. Someone who shared the highs and lows, the wins and the heartbreaks. And now, that chapter has come to a close. Still, even in grief, Geezer chooses to focus on the good. The laughter, the music, the wild adventures, and the quiet moments of real friendship. He knows Ozzy would want that. No tears, no drama, just the music and the memories. That's how Ozzy lived. That's how he'll be remembered. Geezer's tribute wasn't loud or showy. It was honest, simple, and filled with love. Just like the man he was honoring. And in his words, fans got a glimpse of the real Ozzy Osbourne, the friend, the father, the fighter, and the entertainer who gave everything he had to the people he loved. Ozzy may be gone, but his spirit, his music, and his legacy will never fade.